Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about one of my favorite new acquisitions from this year, and that is my Ruger Super Redhawk in 454 Casull and 45 Long Colt. Now, additionally, you could also shoot 45 Schofield out of this, and 44 or 45 shorts if you could ever find them, 45 shot shells. And also, if you have your gun work to use moon clips, you can also use 45 ACP. Now, this is what I would consider a one of the entry-level big bore Magnum revolvers. It is certainly in that category. I like this thing a lot. It's a little bit of a handful, but it's manageable, as you've seen for the shooting footage. I currently have it rigged out with this light setup for hunting at night. When I walk to and from my blind, there are a lot of coyotes along the trail leading to and from camp, and of course, pigs. So having a light on there is certainly good, to be able to aim down. I normally have a headlamp on as well, but being able to light up exactly where I'm pointing is always nice. So, and of course, I just have this with a basic barrel clamp on here with rubber isolator on it, so the shock doesn't, really mess with it. It does clear the muzzle, cylinders cleared of it, everything like that, and it doesn't impede the function in any way. So that's about the only where I could get it to where I could get it directly. Ideally, I would have loved it directly beneath it, and but the problem is I would have it so far forward, the light would be in front of the muzzle, and of course, that would be no good for the light itself. As you can see, it is unloaded. It is a side opening cylinder, has a push injector on it to help extract, and it is not a light gun. Now, shooting 45 Colt with this thing is very pleasant. It's got very little recoil to no recoil, even less than on my new model Army. Now, this is a single double action, so you can cock all the way back, and it has a light trigger. So we'll dry fire one. As you can see, it is very, very light. Now the double action, you got a long pull, it's heavy, and then it just goes. So the double action isn't so bad, but the single action is where it's at if you're trying to do a precision shot. It does have a both windage and elevation adjustable rear sight. It is kind of a U sight here. It's got a fiber optic front sight that isn't adjustable, but they do have all different types of different sights on this. They have fiber optics sights you can switch out for this, which I'm contemplating doing. I may or may not do. And the only reason I'm contemplating on doing it because I am wanting to put a scope on this handgun. Now, when you buy these, you may not get this if you buy them new, but it does come with stainless steel mounts that go on the top rail of the gun itself. I don't know why this is run out loose, and these are actually only one goes in one spot, I believe, if I'm correct on this. I want to say because of the way that the elevation's set up on here. Yeah, that's right. There's only one that goes well. So this is the rear sight, and then this one is for the front. Now, as far as the scope I'm wanting to put on this, I'm still working on what I'm wanting to put on it. Simply because on a Magnum revolver, you're having a lot of recoil on it. I believe Burris has one that I'm most likely to end up with, but there is one also through UTG that I might take a look at. And I am in some talks with them for them possibly sending me one out to test on this gun, simply because, well, they don't have any content or videos on it. So I wanted to check that out. Now, this gun has it's kind of interesting safety on it. It's got this kind of bar that lifts up. I'm not sure exactly. I wouldn't call it it's not a crossbar safety, but it's more of a something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but this is actually what the hammer strikes on this, and not the firing pin itself. So I suppose that's in order to spread out that weight across this whole thing, and not so much as damage the firing pin or the hammer so much. That's the only thing I can think of. As far as it acting as a safety, it does press on it as it is, but when the hammer is down, the hammer doesn't actually rest on the firing pin. And if you can see, it'd be easier if I open up the cylinder. With the hammer down, the firing pin does not protrude at all. So it needs that bar in order to actually protrude the firing pin at all. So this does make this gun safe to carry with all 6 rounds in the cylinder with the hammer down. So it is technically drop safe. Now, I suppose under the right circumstance, you could get something caught in here. For instance, if you're out in the sticks really hunting, maybe get a piece of debris or a stick or leaf or something caught in here that is putting some weight in between. The hammer itself cannot go any further as it sits on the back of the frame right here, and it still doesn't contact that firing pin. However, if you did get something jammed in there, you might be able to maybe make something happen. But that's a very specific, unlikely, event that we're talking about. Now, as I said, it is a cylinder drop open. I have had one issue with this. The cylinder, as you can see, rotates counterclockwise. So when you do load it, for instance, my new model Army rotates clockwise. So if you rotate the cylinder freely clockwise, it's just fine. Nothing happens. You can spin it all day long to your bored heart's content with your little fidget spinner. However, if you spin the other way, there seems to be some kind of ratcheting spring that catches. And when I first got this, being used to my new model Army rotating clockwise, it will jam up eventually and not want to rotate like that. And what happens is somehow when you rotate it clockwise, it actually moves the cylinder back slightly. So if you get it far enough like that, you actually cannot close the cylinder and jam up in that position right there. So I figured that out the hard way. It's not a hard fix. If you do that, if that does happen to you, just rotate your cylinder counterclockwise again, and it will be reset again. No harm, no foul. Now, let me see here. It doesn't exactly have a half cock on it, so you can't half cock it and then turn the cylinder freely. So you can see, as if I try to hold it at half cock, it locks in the next position. And of course at full cock, it doesn't rotate. The only way you can rotate the cylinder, like say if you have different loads in it, if you have, you know, 345s, 454s, or so whatnot, you have to physically open it up and rotate and kind of guesstimate to where you want it to go. It's not too hard. What I've been doing as far as carrying it is I've been carrying, you know, 345s and 454s, or 454s, 245s I'm out hunting, or if I'm planking, you know, depending on what loads I'm wanting to shoot, and doing it like that. Now, something that's interesting about this gun that kind of sets it apart from the other 454 caliber handguns that are out there is this is a 6-round cylinder. Most of them, when you start getting to the Magnum cartridges, are 5-rounders. You know, even a lot of the 454s that are out there are 5 rounds. Even, you know, the Taurus, you know, Raging Bulls, Hunters, stuff like that, and the Judges, most of those are 5 rounds. I'm not sure what their metallurgy is on the cylinders that allowed them to have 6 rounds without really making the cylinder any bigger on a you know, 454. So I'm sure they have some proprietary, you know, metallurgy on that cylinder. And if you actually look at it, it's hard to tell, but there actually is a slight different coloration in the stainless steel on the cylinder versus the rest of the gun. So that's something neat. You get that extra shot with the Super Redhawk, and of course, unlike you know, most revolvers, single, double actions, it is safe to carry on a full cylinder. Now let's go over to the ammo. Currently, I only have some MagTech 454 because that's all I've been able to find locally, and I haven't been wanting to order online because, well, shipping's expensive. So I've been shooting these MagTech 454s. I believe these are I can't remember if they're 290 or 300 grains. I got the box in my range bag. But I've also been shooting, you know, some hand-loaded 45 Colts, hollow points out of it, which seems to handle very well. I've yet to shoot any of my number 9 rat shot out of it yet. Seems like kind of a waste on this. That's more for, you know, what I keep in my you know, my new model army if I'm out during, you know, spring and summertime, you know, for snakes. And then, you know, I got some cast you know, hand loads I'm probably not going to put to this gun. These are probably better off going through my my new model. But as I said, you know, shooting, you know, 45 out of it, very, very pleasant. 454, because of the nice thick rubber grip, isn't so bad out of this gun, even one-handed. And, you know, I'm a small guy, I'll admit that, you know, but, you know, and I have small hands, but shooting one-handed, not so bad, and I almost prefer one-handed with this gun, despite it being, well, it's so heavy, and the recoil isn't very sharp. It's more or less of a snap push back, and it doesn't try to raise a whole lot, just, you know, straight back into your hand. Now, I would not really be wanting to one-hand this thing if I had changed out this grip to, say, you know, one of the nice hardwood grips and stuff like that. And there are lots of them out there. There's some snazzy grips for this gun out there. But it being a hunting gun, stainless steel, all-weather, the rubber grip is the most logical to me, and it's probably going to stay on there, and it's not going to go anywhere. Now, as far as accessories on these, there are a handful of accessories for these handguns. Like I mentioned, there are fiber optic sights and various other sights. I believe you can get tritium night sights for these, a couple other different types of sights. And there are a handful of Picatinny rail options for these. The most common is a short pick rail that goes right up on top. right here, and then that will give you an option to do a red dot or any other type of optic that can be held at hand's length. So you're really limited to scout and pistol scopes as far as magnified optics, but you can get red dots, hollows, all kinds of other stuff on there. There is one out there that I really would like to find that I have not seen, but it's a full barrel length pick rail that attaches to here, comes over, and then actually screws on here. You lose iron sights, but you have a lot of pick rail room you could put on here. So, you could still have your pistol scope on here, but then you also could run, a light or off-candid, red dot on it if you wanted to as well. If you wanted to get real tactical and make it extra, extra heavy. Which, depending on how you look at it, could be a good thing. Now let's go over on the markings on it. Let's see here. You see it says Ruger Super Redhawk, 454 Casull, 45 Colt. Now, again, on the cylinder, it has those same markings as well. Serial number, Ruger's logo, and then, nothing on the other side of it. And then, of course, the Reed owner's manual, Newport, blah, blah, blah. Basic markings, nothing too super fancy or snazzy on it. Now, I have shot this gun, as you've seen in the video, with this light on it, and it turned the light on by itself, which is to be expected with, the level of recoil. However, the light, as you can see, is working just fine, and seems to have handled the recoil very, very nicely without any problems, which I was actually surprised. Now, without the light on here in this mount, this actually fits very nicely inside of my leather holster for my new model Army, and that's how I was actually carrying this with that in there. And I think in some of my footage I might have that in there, shown in there or not, I don't remember, but it does carry inside of that a holster. So if you're looking for a basic holster, no problem. They do make chest holsters for these. Holsters with the scope on it, so you can have it with the scope on it. These are particularly popular up in Alaska or up north in bear country, as if you're getting up close to a bear, or a bear's getting close to you and you can't get to your rifle, or you can't draw your rifle, aim your rifle, this is the next best thing you can have. And I would love to see some videos hunting with this for bear using what is it, Lehigh Defense's Extreme Penetrator or Extreme Cavitator. I'd be really interested to see how 454 performs with one of those, being a solid copper or brass bullet. That would be ideal for something against like bear, wanting to get that penetration through bone and fat. Now, as for the size of it, as you can see, it's a large gun. Compared to my Jericho, as you can see, it is, massive. As you can see there. Now, it actually isn't too much bigger overall than a Remington New Model Army as the 8-inch version. Now, of course, the frame's a lot bigger. It's, stainless steel. It's a heavier gun. I'm not sure exactly what the weight of this is right off the top of my head, but it's substantial. But that helps handle that recoil quite a bit. So it's not so bad. I just love watching the videos when there's guys, 5-6 foot tall, 270, something like that, and they try to one-hand Magnum revolvers and smack themselves in the face, and here I am, 5'2", 175, and I one-hand it, no problem. But then again, same thing, I think it comes down mostly to understanding the handling of your firearm as opposed to actual physical strength or size. There are big guys that can do it, small guys can do it. Even when I had the Magnum Research, the 50 AE, the Desert Eagle a couple years back, I could one-hand that if the grips weren't so wide. I have small hands. I have issues getting around that big fat grip for that 50 AE. But with revolvers, I don't have rounds in the actual, grip, and I can actually get on here very nicely. A lot of the wood grips actually would feel even better to me as far as holding this thing. The problem is they would be a lot worse on the recoil. Shooting 45 wouldn't be an issue, but shooting, the 454, of course, would probably be rather unpleasant. Now, I do plan here, hopefully sometime in the next year or so, or future, getting my hands on a Ruger, not a Ruger, but a Taurus Raging Hunter in 460, which is, I want to get up there. I don't see any need going past 460, but I want one. So if I get a chance to get that on there, get that on the channel, definitely that'd be, coming up. Now, the price range on these can range. I've seen them down about 6 to 7, all the way up to about 15, on the high end, depending on what the current, supply is. So, if you want one, shop around. Now, they do have various barrel lengths on these as well. This one here is I think the 7.5. They don't make a true 8-inch, but it's 7.5. And then they also have a short, like a little 5.5 that's like right in here. And then, of course, they have the Alaskan, which is just like right here. Right past it, and then the snub nose, which is like, right there's a snub nose, which, in my opinion, the Alaskan and the snub nose are, I understand the Alaskan for wanting something that's short, in the case of a bear attack, but the snub nose to me is kind of pointless because you have this big giant honking gun and this big giant honking cartridge, but yeah, you lose all the power because you're taking away all the barrel length. And to be honest, even 7.5 probably isn't long enough for 454. As, I'm not sure what length 454 actually needs to burn up all of its powder and gets maximum performance, but considering, the fireballs this thing will throw, 7.5 ain't quite it. So I'm going to compare 454 to 45 Colt. Now, of course, 45 Colt was the original parent cartridge 454. Early versions of the 454 were pretty much just Magnum 45 Colt. And if you look, there is actually a case length difference. Otherwise than that, most of the diameter and everything else, the case dimensions are exactly the same. You just have that little bit of extra length. Of course, the brass case thickness is thicker on the 454 to contain that extra pressure and extra powder. So on they make it kind of hard to accidentally load this in a gun that is a 45 Colt. On my new model Army, these, when not completely jammed back in there, will sit fairly almost at the end of my cylinder on my new model Army. The 454 will not chamber into the cylinder. It will stick out. So it's pretty hard to load a 454 into a 45 only gun. However, I imagine that ends up being problematic when you get into like lever guns that are chambered in 45 Colt. Might be able to cycle this. And shooting 454 out of a 45 lever gun probably isn't going to end well because of the design. That bolt's got to go somewhere, and its easiest way is straight back into you. So not exactly good. Anyways, if you're looking for an all-weather, big bore hunting handgun, I definitely recommend the Super Redhawk. I got this one specifically because I really needed this cylinder for another project someday in the future. And if I can find another cylinder by itself, I won't have to remove this one for that project. But one day, I have something special in mind for this cylinder, or a Super Redhawk cylinder in 454, but that's later on down the line. But anyways, next week we're going to be going back to another rifle. Not sure what I'm doing yet. Might do 22, I might do 30 cal. We'll have to see. Both are kind of weird. Both are kind of not what you exactly think of when you originally think of what they actually originally are. A little foreshadowing. I'll decide which one I'm going to actually do. Don't know yet. Anyways, next time. I'll see y'all again. Have a good one. Be sure to come over here and subscribe. And of course you have to hit the little bell. Otherwise we won't show up in your notifications each time we post a new video. And check us out on Facebook and give us a like. We post all of our content there as well, as long as some pictures that we take. Speaking of Instagram, you can check us out on Instagram too. We post all of our pictures, some short clips that don't end up on YouTube, along with a little bit of funny stuff, some game recipes, and we're also on Twitter. You can check us out. We could always use the support. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, but that stuff kind of isn't cheap, so every little bit of support helps and will help us get out some good content for everyone.